Welcome back to Total Barnage. Today, we're going to be talking about Jim Carrey. Is he alive or not?
He's not. He's not. That was not Jim Carrey.
That's a creepy video. It's, my goodness. It definitely isn't him.
What do you think?
I don't think it's him, but I think, either it's something very sinister or he's just playing a good old Hollywood prank and sending someone in because he can't be asked to do it himself.
Because it's definitely not him. Unless he's had the worst fate, like botched job surgery and changed his eye colour. I mean, it's just weird.
Yeah, the guy's French as well. There's no way it's Jim Carrey. Actually, we're not talking about Jim Carrey today, although we could go on for an hour and a half about him. Today we're going to talk about personal training and what the hell even is it?
Oh my goodness, what is it? I mean, firstly, what's going to happen with online training now with AI everywhere? It's there's kind of two parts to personal training. It's like one, you're getting someone a result. They want to lose body fat. They want to get fitter. They want to get faster. They want to get stronger. Want to build their confidence, recover from injury, whatever that might be. But why do you need a personal trainer? What makes personal training work? And what would you think? Like, seeing as you only joined as a personal trainer to the gym, a year, let's say 9 months ago ish?
Yeah,
June sort of time. Like, what did you initially think personal training is?
I honestly, before I did my course and everything, of course, I've been in the sphere of kind of performance, which is a little bit more, I don't know, kind of like specific, specialized, right? Growing up as a runner, we got our coach down at the club will set our sessions, and we'll go down there for 2 times a week. But outside of that, you're kind of left to your own devices. So I would see personal training in the same way that people you rock up once or twice a week and you do a session that is kind of tailored towards you. And then you you go home and then you don't do much. And then you come back and that's kind of your gym sessions. And you might, off your own back, you might go and do what's necessary. But the thing that really opened my eyes to the process that you do and we do down at Barn is having the online coaching as well as the in-person, personal training sessions.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's old school personal training. There would be maybe perhaps an expectation that your client is going to do everything you ask of them at home without any accountability around it. And sure, you would have perhaps the accountability when you see them in the session saying, hey, did you do this? And they could either lie to you or about that they had been eating well, but my weight's still not going down. In fact, it's going up. And you're like, okay, well, what are you actually eating at the moment? So that's kind of what I found when I first started personal training. I went into the industry with little to no experience. And I started off, I saw the whole online coaching thing. I was like, I want to do the 10 grand months online and, I want to, chase that. So I kind of started doing the online coaching and got familiar with multiple platforms. Eventually found Trainerize was generally the best in the industry. I used a few others before that. I think we used Stridist and True Coach and PT Hub, I think. But Trainerize generally worked out the best. And so I had online coaching clients where we had the full accountability over what they did throughout the week. You set them a program, set them a nutrition plan. They upload their food on there. You can see their macronutrients, their micronutrients, their calorie intake, the food choices. Great accountability. And then you could also get them to do all their workouts. And you could schedule 4 workouts a week and they follow all of that. And it was fantastic. And then with my personal training clients early on, I'd literally just have them paying for the session and that be it. And I wouldn't see the results I would online. In fact, I was generally getting better results online because of the lacking accountability I had outside of that session. I would be able to get them better. The benefit of the in-person coaching at that point was much more like I could coach them through the movements a lot better. So for anyone kind of starting off the bat, like you can coach the movement standards a lot better, much more improve their technique faster, and kind of coach them through, why are we doing this rep range? why are we resting for this long? What you can kind of inform them very well within that session. You can kind of coach them, but there's not that accountability outside that session. But whereas with the online side of things, perhaps there's not as much of that coaching element where you can coach the technique and see what they're doing and describe to them why they need to do it that way and explain it all. But you would have a lot more accountability and a lot more structure, which would therefore lead to the better results. So I quickly, once I started realizing that my online clients were getting better results, I just merged the two together and kind of like did a hybrid style of personal training where all our clients have online training plans and they get coached like a online client now, but they also have the sessions in the gym as well, where they're perhaps, if they've got a home gym, they can do more body weight stuff or whatever equipment they have available. And when they come and do their PT session, they do the heavier lifts and go through a bit more technique work, and naturally they're going to push themselves a bit harder. So it's become kind of this hybrid between online coaching and personal training. So now we can hold all our PT clients accountable to their diet, their home workout plans, their sleeping patterns, their steps, any other habits, whether it be drinking more water, whether it be doing stretch routines. We can add that all into their program. And then the PT sessions is much more, let's focus on technique and training with a bit more intensity and learning new movements. And then outside of the gym, we have a program and procedure they follow. So it's a good system we have going.
Yeah. Do you think that's the most kind of complete system that is possible at the moment? Like we talk a lot about that there are 168 hours in the week. And if you're just doing PT sessions for, 2 hours a week, like you've hinted at, the online, if you're just doing the online coaching and not actually doing the in-person stuff, you might even get better results than just 2 sessions a week without any help outside of it, because it is the accountability that's going to be able to maintain the consistency and the importance of having decent nutrition for your goals, like especially if it's fat loss or any sort of body, recomposition. It's really about what you're eating as well as, how you're training.
Yeah, it's what you're doing outside the gym. That's what we always tell our PT clients when they join. It's like, look, with the best will in the world, we can do everything we can in these 2 hours, but unless you're doing everything outside of these hours, it will change, don't get me wrong, but this progress will be that much slower. And people want to see progress quickly, right? So we want to accelerate that as much as possible. So all the lifestyle factors that kind of come into it and all the habits we build for our clients enable them to see better results. And the people who see the best results are the people that do all the other bits and not just the PT sessions. So yeah, people want change. They need to implement change into their life. And it can be easy if you follow the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think if you even just look at, it seems really obvious when you say it out loud that the online element and the rest of the 5 days a week or however many hours in the week that you're not at the gym, how much that makes a difference, right? And because if you just think back to like school and you think, why were we given homework? And like the people that did the homework for the most part would get the better exam results. The people that just went, kids that just went in the class and maybe did a little bit, paid attention a little bit. And even if they worked pretty hard in the class, then you did nothing outside of it, then you're not going to get the results that you see. So it seems really obvious to add the online component. Like, is it common within, gyms and personal training now, because we may have had the shift from COVID to online and then it's come back to more of a hybrid style? Is it that common, within the personal training sphere?
Yeah, I think it is for the better programs you see. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of kind of people who just kind of still coach old school way, and it is just literally the sessions. But if you're looking at the high performing personal training gyms and studios around the country and around the world, yeah, most of them will have this kind of hybrid method integrated into it, with their own apps, with nutrition plans and training plans integrated into it, because it's accountability. It all comes down to that. I even mentioned earlier, with the personal training sessions, you can coach that much more, but I was getting better transformations on the online training because there was more structure and accountability. And that's what leads to the best results. It's not just an abundance of information that is going to lead to you getting in shape. It's structure and accountability that leads to that. I could get, like, for instance, there's been points in the year where have more body fat in my body. I'm less fit. Does it mean I know less? No. Of course, I know how to get in shape, I know how to get fit, I know all these things, but what am I lacking in those periods of time is probably less accountability with myself and less structure in my life. Does it mean I know any less? No. So often when what you find online at the moment with online trainers, a lot of people sign up with the person who is in the best shape because their body image sells so well. They're ripped, they got a six pack. Does that mean they know more than perhaps someone with a degree in sports science because they look better than them? Absolutely not. It just means they've got a bit more structure in their life and probably some better habits in order to look that way. So for me, it's how do I, one, inform and educate the clientele? That's very important. And that's what we have kind of like our online community for, where we're posting educational videos all the time on nutrition, training, mindset, recovery, and topics on health. But secondly is like the most important thing is how do we create a structure and habits and provide accountability for those clients to get the best results, so they're both educated and held accountable, and it's kind of getting that perfect balance. And then on top of all of that, how do we make it fun and sustainable? So there's a lot of moving parts to create a successful training plan. Loads of things because the best will in the world, you can make a training plan which is structured and accountable, but if it's fucking dull, and no one's going to stick to it long term. So on top of all of that, you need to make it exciting. There needs to be some play in there, some fun. It needs to be in the right environment, a positive environment, because there's PT studios up in London that they get very well. Let's say UP, Ultimate Performance, they're probably some of the best in the industry at it, some of the best personal training gyms in the world, but they are so focused on the result. Performance and result is their objective. So they get people paying, £5,000-10,000 on personal training transformations, like a lot of money, but it's very much get them in, get them a result, get them gone. Not all the time. They do have some decent retention, but it's very much, we'll get you the result no matter what, and it might not be the most fun experience, but we'll get you there. Whereas we kind of lean a little bit more into, okay, let's make this experience enjoyable and fun, and let's keep you in shape long term, rather than just pumping out that kind of quick win.
Yeah, and one of those things that you do, we do down here with the check-ins, weekly check-ins. You send out a check-in form at the weekend. It has a variety of stuff on it. Just saying, how's your training been? How's your nutrition been? How's your recovery been? Give it a little scale rating out of 5. But then you also, without fail, always have a little question at the end. A fun little question, mostly involving mythical characters, crazy hypotheticals, some kind of loosely wrapped in an existential cape to get people to answer. What have been the most interesting questions that you just to keep it lighthearted and stuff? What have been the most interesting questions, Guy, that you've come up with on your check-in forms? What have been the big hitters?
Well, let's give it a little bit more context before I answer that question, because a check-in form, I've done a lot of personal training programs, and I've always found when you're on track, you want to fill out the check-in form, and when you're off track, you don't want to fill in the check-in form, because you're kind of like, I don't want to do that because I haven't done what I need to do this week. So I thought an easy way of kind of making that change, one, make people want to have a look at the check-in form to see what that question is this week, because a lot of people just fill out the check-in form because they want to fill out that last question. And it's so that's kind of one thing. It adds a bit of novelty to it. But secondly, like, you get to know your clients a lot better when you get them to answer these peculiar questions, which no one really ever gets asked. Maybe if you have a child, that they might ask you these questions,
which is exactly what's happening here.
Yeah, and it just adds a bit of fun. So, I mean, most of the time, I go back onto, I don't know, March the 1st program.
Yeah, so this week.
Oh no, this was a kind of a bore, like in terms of
top 3 favorite movies. So this one messed me up because I got to do check-ins and people are, my tabs above, the way that we'll do the check-ins is we'll record it, we'll have our face in the corner and we'll go through pretty much like screen sharing it. And you can kind of see my open tabs at the top with the list of what the movie is. I'm like, I've never heard of this movie.
Yeah, but you know that was on that's kind of a boring one. I mean, that was good, but everyone likes answering their favorite movies.
Well, November the 7th, we had Which Apocalypse Would You Rather Have? And there's nuclear with mutated animals, an alien invasion, zombies, or AI robot.
Well, that's a hard question. It's kind of like, what way would you like to die? I to be fair, nuclear with mutated animals would be, I think, quite scary, but in a way fun. But zombie apocalypse, I think aliens, you're fucked because they're so intelligent. I mean, they're gonna do us over. Yeah. AI robots, again, intelligence. They are more intelligent than us, so probably lose that one. So it's between zombies and mutated animals. Nuclear war, it's no fun at all. I mean,
nuclear war also wipes out. I was reading a book by Annie Jacobson called Nuclear War, a scenario, and it goes through what would happen if a nuclear bomb was dropped on the US by North Korea.
Oh, really?
Nice and topical. Yeah. and how quickly kind of, you know, it spreads, and then the nuclear fallout and all that sort of stuff. I think zombies is good because zombies, I mean, we've seen zombie films before. I watched a zombie film at the weekend.
Did you?
I was watching it with my mum and stepdad, and it was called Abigail. And actually, it was like a vampire film. To be fair, it was
very different things, Charlie.
Well, in my mind, it's, you know, they seem like they're human, and then they get bitten, and then they're like, but
so they're like almost like zombie vampires. They're not classic like Vlad Dracula Tepesh type characters.
No, this was like a girl. She must have been like 10 years old, and these people, maybe, like, it's going to be a bit of a spoiler alert, to be fair, already. Sorry. And they get them in this house, and apparently she's been kidnapped because her dad's really rich and powerful. But it turns out that she's behind the operation as well, and she ends up being the kind of zombie vampire type. But my mum and Andrew didn't know. We didn't know that it was that kind of film. And you're halfway through the film, then it turns out that it's like, you know, where is this going? And then she's just like appeared from nowhere with her face all messed up. But then you just got to stick with the film.
I like a good twist. I mean, I know there's a few people here listening, but Sinners is somewhat like that. I watched that recently. I didn't really know where it was headed. I just heard it was a good movie. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, not zombies, vampires everywhere trying to suck people's blood. And you're like, oh gosh, that was the twist I wasn't expecting. But I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Any sort of stuff. But anyway, going back to the check-in forms, you kind of sidetracked us, but
yeah, but that's the whole point of it. It's supposed to be, you know, it's supposed to be a bit of fun.
It's thought-provoking, and I imagine people are thinking all sorts of stuff like this when they're filling it out. But why do we do a check-in form? Well, we obviously have data-driven evidence of how our client is performing by how frequently they're filling out their Trainerize app. Which is our coaching platform. So are they filling out their food? Are they doing their home workouts? Are they going for their daily steps? Whatever their habits might be, it's all very dependent on the person. Are they doing their weigh-ins? So we have data, and then the check-in is literally to get a bit of an emotional response to how they felt the week's gone. So that gives us a little bit more information to really kind of coach them to our best ability. And yeah, you kind of want that yin and yang. You want the data, you want the emotional response to the week, and then you can kind of really work with them on how they can improve for the next week.
I think also, as a coach, it is the kind of thing that you want what's best for your clients, and the way that you kind of would approach if things are, there's a bit of slacking here and there, or things are going well, you want to approach it in the right way. I would hate, and that's what I thought, straight away, is I would hate to go in to a weekly check-in as a coach and go through, if there was no check-in form, you got no context, right? And if you've just got the online coaching, and maybe if seeing someone once or twice a week, or even once at the start of the week, and go in screaming and shouting about oh, haven't done this, get on the tracking. And obviously, if there's something that's been going on in their life, it's terrible in and of its own, kind of like experience of, if they turn around and go, oh yeah, something happened back end of the week. But it is also just like, it doesn't seem very reflective of just a natural relationship that you'd have with someone. It's very disconnected. And I think that connection down here on the social side, and actually having time with your clients and, becoming friends with them and getting to know them and that sort of stuff, and making it more of a relaxed environment, and making it less like school-like, while still having the structure that we kind of learnt from school that works, is not having, telling people off for this. And, going in, and sometimes there's a time and place for it. Especially if what someone knows is all they need is literally just, kick up the backside. But yeah, to go in and then they turn around and they're like, oh no, actually, the reason why I didn't do this was because this happened. And you're like, okie doke. That's a bit awkward.
Yeah. There's so many different ways to coach people, and having that kind of militant approach for some works really well. And why the fuck did you not do this week? And why have we got any? And sometimes people need that. Some people do need that, but also some people need a more gentle approach, and the accountability. You just need to kind of be asking questions. And I think the thing I've discovered is there's so many different ways to coach people, and there's so many different ways to kind of get people a result, but it's really adapting your strategy for that individual. And with personal training, yes, you have a consultation at the start, and you try and suss the person out and work out their goals and work out their why and their problems, etc. But only really about 6 to 8 weeks in do you truly get to know how that person ticks and how they work, and you improve your coaching with them throughout that experience. It's all to do with kind of connection and how well you know that person. And if you don't, it takes time to learn that. I've been coaching for, 8 years, and I'm still learning how to improve, and I'm still curious on the psychology of it all. I think that's become ever more present for me. It's the people who get the better results is the mindset of that individual, and the determination. And I think everyone's got determination. It's how do you tap into that, and what language do you need to use with that client, or what approach do you need to take in order to kind of get them more determined? And it's not just hits of motivation every once in a while. How do we get that kind of consistent discipline and structure in their life so they can continue to see results? But it's not a one size fits all policy. Sometimes you might find that with a client that you click, and within the first week you can know what strategy to use, and it works well, and you keep that throughout. And sometimes you have to change up. It could be after a month of coaching, it could be after a year. There's different strategies that apply to different results.
Yeah, have you had situations where you feel like, although you'll be learning and being adaptable to the client and what they need, at what point, there's there been a specific situation where you've recommended that the client go to another trainer, and what has been the reason behind that? Yeah, sometimes. So I think very much people join with a goal they're after. Normally it's weight loss at the start. There's don't get me wrong,
there's other results people are chasing at the start, but let's just call it weight loss. And you need to set deadlines, right? It's all good, very good and well saying, I need to lose a stone. Okay, why do you need to lose it? What makes you want to do that? Okay, you work that out. And what time span now? Like, do we need to lose a stone in a year? In 3 months?
1 week?
In a week? Do you know what I mean? So then you put some timelines on it, and then you achieve that goal. And then it's kind of like, what next? And I'm very big on like setting up that next goal, whether it be hitting a certain number on a bench press or a deadlift or running time, a performance focused thing, because then it makes it exciting. We've always got something we're working towards. I want to do this or I want to do that, rather than just training for the sake of training. Some people, it works well. Like, we got a lot of clients here that they say, like, Guy, I'm not going to fucking do it on my own. I'm not going to go to the gym on my own. I just need you to hold me accountable for 2 sessions a week, and I'm going to come here and train. And that's valid. And that's that person's, they're very understanding of what works well for them, you know. And they've probably tried to do it on their own for years, and they're actually just like, no, I just want to do 2 personal training sessions a week and maintain a decent level of health, and that's cool. But for a lot of people, they need those goals, and sometimes I won't be able to facilitate that, knowing that there's someone else on the team that's perhaps better than me and has a better skill set for that. For instance, Casper's fantastic with mobility, and if I have someone who's not very mobile, I perhaps, you know, chat to Casper and see if he can work with them. You for running, you know, that's an area of my expertise which I'm not fantastic at. If I get a lady in their 50s, 60s, 70s who's a bit insecure and not very confident, my mother will coach them, because, you know, she's coming on 60 this year. She'll hate me to say that, but she can resonate with them an awful lot more. And then, you know, Charlotte and myself are pretty malleable. We can get on with most people. But again, there's some certain people that will probably work better with Charlotte than with me. So I think I used to think I could help everyone, but now I've just discovered that actually there are better people for the job on certain things, and it's just allocating that to a good training team. And sometimes we spread the workload, right? Like, quite a few of my clients you've done the running programs for, and I've done like the strength and conditioning stuff. So yeah, I think that's the advantage of having a team behind it. It really helps, because we can all kind of put our expertise into a personal training plan here, rather than it just being, when it was me as a one-man band, obviously it was just one brain on the job, but now we can have multiple people kind of help and collaborate on training programs.
Yeah, and I think it's worth mentioning. There's obviously that coaching side of things where you look at the skill sets, or just even the natural relationship that you have an initial, you know, interaction with someone with a new client, and you can feel maybe like a good, you know, relationship fit for what they might need. You see that on the coach's side, but then it's also very much down to, you know, you'll ask the preference of the client themselves. And you might find, you know, they might not want, for whatever reason, you know, a male coach, or they might not want a female coach. They might want someone that is a bit tougher on them. They might want someone who is a little bit more emotional and more gentle with them. And it's that like 2-way relationship that it works both ways. You know, you ask the client, you say, you know, are you happy? You know, how are you getting on with this coach? And that's the benefit of having the online side of things, is that you pick up the iPad for the session, everything's already on it. And if, you know, Charlotte's away at the moment, if one of us were to take over one of her clients for a session or 2, then you've got all of the programming and everything that is, you know, it is consistent with what they've been doing, and you can literally pick up where they've left off.
Which, yeah, it makes life very easy. Also means that the client is not going to lose momentum, which is a big thing. When a coach is away on holiday or off sick, they can just pick up with one of the other trainers and they can kind of continue as is. Some people don't really like to do that as much. Some people really like just to kind of stick with their trainer. But I think, you know, being a bit more being able to change up the trainers and having the mindset of actually like, no, it doesn't matter. I'm working towards the goal, and I can have Charlotte 95% of the time or 90% of the time. And if someone else has to fill in, fantastic. You're still working towards that same goal. So yeah, that's really, really important. But culture is also an important thing of kind of like how you are around your clients, willing to be more open, perhaps something you might have changed since joining.
Mm-hmm. Me being open.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's it's something where it's an interesting one actually, because I will only really be open unless I see a real reason to do it without being asked. But I will only really be open if someone asks me a question. It's a balance for me. If someone the sessions that I'll have with clients, having like an hour with them is very much for them. I'll ask them questions. It's whatever they want to do with their time. It's then I don't want to rob them of their problems by trying to relate too much and trying to be too open. But then it is the same. It's in the same way. There are times when I might feel that it would be pretty important for me to say maybe my own struggles. Like at the moment, pretty obvious. I've got this knee brace, and I am injured and very visibly so. But then over the past year and a half, I haven't been able to walk pain-free, but you wouldn't notice that. Or there are certain things that I've gone through that you wouldn't know unless you'd ask. And a lot of the times, like the sessions are only an hour long. You can build a good rapport with someone, but there's a time and a place for asking those kind of questions. So for me, it's being intentional with when I'm opening up to someone, and the balance with relating to them, but not taking away from their struggles like themselves.
For sure. You don't want to open a session with, I'm having a really shit day, here are all my problems. Like no one wants that. No. And it kind of goes back to, being somewhat relatable. I think for me, a big one is just being able to kind of, sometimes you'll be put in a box as a personal trainer and think, oh, he must have like an immaculate lifestyle and like never go off track. And for me, it's like really kind of familiarizing myself with the client and saying, actually, like you do this, but your problem, so let's say they go out drinking. I go out drinking every once in a while. And your problem isn't actually that event that night. It's what you do for the next 3 or 4 days after and how that knocks on your momentum. Really just get back on track, and then it's just one night. And it's kind of having that relatability and being able to kind of like give them solid strategies of what I do in order to kind of get back on track. I say get back on track. I mean, it's like, it's not like it's a hard path. It shouldn't be. It just should be get back to your normal lifestyle that makes you feel healthy, confident, energized and happy. That's what you want to be on. And that's the road you want to stay on. Like people have, they go out for a drink on a Friday night, Saturday night, and then all of a sudden it's about 4 days of not eating right, not exercising properly. Then, Wednesday, Thursday, they somewhat find their groove again, and then it's wrecked again Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, somewhat again Tuesday, they start to feel themselves. So for me, it's being able to be open with my clientele and be actually like, hey, look, I do that, but this is what I do in order to kind of get back in my groove as quickly as possible, so that one night or those 2 nights don't destroy my whole week. So that's where I can find kind of like being somewhat open, as some trainers might kind of like hold back on how open they are with perhaps their drinking habits or with their eating habits. They might be struggling with things themselves and not have the solutions. So it's you kind of like, it's a style of coaching I quite enjoy. It's kind of putting myself in the situation, or when I'm in that situation, what would I do better? But again, that's strategy that works for me might not work well for them, and that's kind of making them very aware of that. And I love my clients, what do you eat, Guy? And I'm like, well, look, I eat these foods, for instance, but those foods might not work the same for you, or it might not be foods that you actually particularly like. So what's the point of the question? do you want to mirror what I do in order to look like me? I mean, that could work, but is it sustainable? So it's kind of, for me, it's much more about teaching the principle, and then for them to work out their strategy. So, hey, eat this amount of calories, eat this amount of protein, eat this amount of fiber. These are broadly the foods that you should be eating. This big circle of foods, right? These are whole foods, highly nutritious, nutrient dense whole foods. There's a massive pool of them there. Now you work it out yourself. Work out the foods that you love and enjoy. What can you stay consistent with? And then kind of create that structure yourself, rather than, here's a meal plan. Eat those. And it's like, is there any learning in that process? You know? Yeah,
I think there's only, it's so true. You can teach the principles and the approach, but there's no point in really mirroring exactly what you can do. Like, and do you think, and I guess it makes you question, like, what is the system with your eating? And most of it is, well, get a Sainsbury's delivery in, and only order the stuff that's consistently going to be what you want to have in your diet.
Yeah.
And it's pretty difficult. We're out pretty much in the middle of nowhere. If you want to go and get something, unless there's loads of stuff in your parents' house, like you're gonna have to go to a lot of effort to break a lot of those rules and the systems. I find it fascinating. It's a slightly different, but more training specific, is whenever I try to replicate a time which has gone well and training has gone well for me, or a lifestyle kind of, habits and stuff have gone well. I realized after quite a while that what I should be doing is not necessarily replicating the exact sessions or the exact lifts or the rep ranges specifically, especially with running for me. I don't need to go and hit these perfect sessions, just replicate that 4-week block that I had before my best race like a few years back. A lot of it is actually just replicating the approach I had to it. It's a little bit more of a niche point, but it's like, did I look forward to the training in that moment? Like, who was I doing the training with? Did I have a little bit of a looser grip on how I would perform in the sessions? Like, was I a little bit more relaxed going into it? Did I have other things in my life that were also important that meant that I didn't have to pin everything on a singular session, or really like zoom in too much and force myself to hit certain times? And I kind of look at the things that are not on the spreadsheet. So, I could have a whole list of, you go back through Strava or through like Trainerize that we have. Like, we could go back to a client and say, these are the exact things that you did in the summer, and it got you the results that you wanted. And scientifically, it would work, right? You go through the diet, you look at the macros, you look at the calories. There's no disputing the thermodynamics and the science and the physics behind things. But it's not the whole story. And maybe going over, and this is why I find it so important for me, over the past few years, I kept a journal and a record of things, is adding in how I'm feeling on the days. And again, it's the thing that you can add in with the check-in forms, is your approach to the training, and how you're feeling about the situation. There's a lot more than just the numbers. And those things actually are sometimes more important and can create more sustainable habits, because of the fact that there is a bit more of an idea of the identity that comes along with the training.
For sure. It's funnily enough, like when I got really, really lean in 2024, and I was just curious. So I went onto MyFitnessPal, and when I'm going through spouts of trying to lose body fat and get into a calorie deficit, I will be tracking food. So I went back and looked at my food diary back then. I was just kind of curious, okay, what level of calories was I eating? How much protein was I eating? What was my fiber intake? What foods was I eating? And I kind of looked back through it, and I was like, okay, it's really like a little bit different, but quite similar still. But I was just kind of at that moment in time, I really enjoyed that diet. But now I'm kind of like, actually, I don't really fancy any of those meals that were kind of like, I had probably about 10 on rotation there.
But were you very salmon heavy? haven't seen salmon in the fridge.
There was a lot of
recently.
salmon. There was a lot of salmon and eggs.
Yeah.
A lot of rice dishes back then, which we kind of eased away from. We're doing a lot more potatoes and pasta at the moment. But anyway, it kind of goes back down to that approach. And so I kind of started to look at, okay, like what was my mentality? And I was like, oh, well, I did have a triathlon booked in. Okay, I'd actually had 2 triathlons booked in. So there was a bit of urgency in my life. So it's kind of interesting. It was less so the training plan and the nutrition plan, but it was more so where was my head at, what was going right in my life. And I was like, actually, that it was summer. I was going for a lot more runs outdoors, blue skies, all these kind of small factors that can have a big influence on my psychology about training. I was doing all my weightlifting sessions outdoors and on the outdoor rig. So I personally just find it's easier to be leaner in the summer. Generally always am. And but how can I replicate that in the winter? And that's what I'm trying to work out at the moment. Do I want to be leaner in the winter as well? Not really. I don't really mind. I can focus a little bit more on strength training, less so on cardio. And in the summer, I am generally doing a lot more running because I love running in the summer, running the trails around here, and naturally dropping a little bit more weight from that. So yeah, I think a lot of the time it's not just looking at the numbers. It's like what other aspects of your life are making you get a result where you're fitter, stronger, leaner, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to go back to what you said, kind of right at the start, going back to the idea of knowledge. You have the knowledge to train and to to get the results that you want personally. But a lot of the times, the reason why we don't do it, and this is the real importance I've found, as a coach, is that a lot of the times the stuff that most people have the knowledge to do things, right? I don't think there is there'll be some things in the in-person sessions, right? If you want, I had a session yesterday with one of my online clients, Suki, and we were going through some of the technique of just some of the lifts that she was doing at home. Really, really good session. She came in with questions of, where she'd had a lack of like dumbbell selection. So the limit was really how much she was lifting. And she's like, right, I need a progression for this exercise. And kind of went away from the session, and I was pretty pleased every time that, gave her a little tweak, and she's like, oh my gosh, this is a lot harder. I'm like, okay, good. Like we got the progression that we needed. There are certain things that there will be a knowledge issue. I don't think for most of the things that people would want to change, adapt and edit in their lives, I don't think a lot of it's a knowledge issue. I think a lot of it is that we just need a reminder a lot of the time, and having an objective perspective of a coach. I might be just doing this week with check-ins with clients. It might just be the same message. It might just be a reminder of something that they've forgotten because busyness literally just kind of takes over, and there are loads of things fighting for our attention and that sort of stuff. And it seems patronizing. I don't think that, I know that we like to seek novelty and we like to seek new things, but there is no shame at all in relearning the same lessons, and just reminding yourself of something that, annoyingly, we might have had the answers to how to approach things like years ago. A lot of times when we were younger, most of the things is like why we would adhere to and get the best results is because we're literally just having fun and having an element of play. As a kid, we're like mainly just in the present moment, and that is where the enjoyment and the happiness and kind of pure idea of like kind of consciousness and just having as much fun as possible comes from. Is you're literally just in the present as a kid. We've kind of got the answers on a big scale to a lot of the problems that we might be going through. But they're kind of behind doors and in kind of rooms in our house that we haven't visited in a while. And all it takes is maybe a little prompt or something like this podcast to remind someone of something that they already knew. I had a big kind of, because I like to learn things quite quickly, and the way that I'll learn things is by kind of like repeated like recall with it, and then change something about my life, and I've learnt the lesson. But you kind of get to a point where, again, like I say, there's no shame in relearning the same things. Is there anything, Guy, for you that you're still relearning and kind of reapplying, and it's not necessarily about novelty?
It's a good question. I think, what am I relearning at the moment? Unfortunately, I think I'm very familiar with my body now. I mean, it's been, I started training in the gym when I was like 13. So it's about, 13 years of learning. So there's not a lot. I think there's a certain extent it's motivation is something I kind of always, no matter what, there's an element where I've got to kind of remind myself that will come and I can't wait for it. That's probably more so in my work life now. I see it more present. So for me, today I want to go on a run. Beautiful, sunny, blue skies.
It is nice.
And I'm very good at, on the days now where it's raining and it's dark, I will go on the run no matter how I feel. But for me, it's just kind of reshaping that same strategy for getting the boring parts of the business work done. Understanding that, I will be able to be motivated 5 minutes into the activity, and that first 5 minutes is always the hardest. But I do know that, but it's putting that practice, like putting that into practice, which is sometimes the hardest thing. So it's not so much around exercise and nutrition these days. Perhaps when I'm getting leaner, kind of telling myself, I'm very aware, if I'm a little bit hungry, I'm probably supposed to be a little bit hungry if I'm in a slightly caloric deficit. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm doing things right if I'm there. So I'm very, one big adaptation I've kind of done is when things get tough, if I'm in a training phase, for instance, I'm training for the North Korean half marathon at the moment, and it's supposed to be difficult, and leaning into that, when my legs are a little bit sore, I'm a little bit depleted of energy, I'm not quite inspired to do it, like, good, it's supposed to be hard. And for me, it's kind of like reminding my clients, like, yes, we try and make it a structure, we try and make it, build these habits in, and we try and make it as easy as possible for you to get in shape, but it's supposed to be difficult, mm-hmm. And it kind of picking up these cues. For me, it's more so in my work life now than my training life and my health. But it's just kind of understanding, like, the times you are a little bit tired and the times you are a little bit demotivated and you are a little bit hungry, like, good, like, this is what we are trying to do to achieve the outcome. And it's kind of an outcome of putting the practice, putting the work in. So yeah, to a point, I think everyone can kind of learn that a little bit, and teaching that to clientele that, it's not going to be easy every single day. It's not just like the weight's all going to drop off or you're going to all of a sudden be a lot stronger. Like, it's going to take some work, and you can try and downplay it as much as you can and say, we'll make it as easy as possible for you to get there. But the bottom line is there's going to have to be some work put in order to get that result. Yeah,
just because it's as easy as possible doesn't mean that it's actually easy.
Yeah, exactly.
And just because it's easy on some days doesn't mean that it's going to be easy like every day.
Yeah.
And I think, something that you hinted at is that we talk about it quite a lot. This is kind of how the process feels and looks. And sometimes we are just alien to a certain feeling or emotion or a certain state of discomfort. And we might view, in my training, I see, and in life, if you talk about the word difficult, there are so many different things that difficult could mean. It might just be difficult sometimes is like getting out the door and physically trying to build that trust within yourself. Like, difficult can also just be like, your stomach's rumbling and you've just got to abstain. You've just got to resist temptation and not eat for a bit, if that is your goal of being in a calorie deficit, and you just have to endure those moments. So difficulty could just be a state of like endurance. It might be, in some cases, it's like a lack of motivation and maybe just a feeling of like you don't really see the point in doing things. You go, okay, no, this isn't really worth it. And that might just be a stage of difficult that you've got to trust and keep going through next couple of weeks. I mean, sometimes the difficult, what I've had in the past couple of years with injuries is a weird feeling of like numbness and emotionlessness of, I keep just doing stuff and focusing on doing things, but I'm not getting a positive feedback. And so that's a different kind of difficult, which is like a little bit more unquantifiable, and you can't really put your finger on it. So it shows up in different ways. And I guess, having either going through the process yourself and knowing that, and knowing like, right, this is just the point where I've got to dig deep. This is how I get through and over to the other side, and this is how I get the results. Or having someone else that can remind you, and in a safe environment, like push and stretch you and say, it's just because you're just not, you're a bit alien to the environment and the process. And with new territory comes new feelings, emotions, and experiences.
Yeah. You don't know until you try. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people kind of put that word difficult on. They kind of have this feeling that it's going to be very difficult to lose weight, and that it intimidates them from ever starting, which is sad, really. They kind of give up before they've even attempted. They don't really have a true understanding of what that difficult might be. A lot of the time, we have people come here, say, I want to join the gym, I want to do personal training, I want to do classes, I want to do some form of program. And then they back out because they don't have the time, probably a little bit fearful that it's going to be hard, time doesn't feel right. When is the time going to be fucking right? That's my question. Like, okay, it's too busy now to lose body fat. Okay, so what, we're only going to be in shape when you have more time, But then, what do you think? Everyone that's in shape has loads of, just an abundance of time? That's just not true. So I think that fear really controls a lot of people's decision making around getting in shape and starting to improve their health, because they think it's going to be hard and they're kind of scared of starting. There's a big hindrance for that. And one thing I want to make very apparent is, we have a lot of very, very, very busy individuals here who may be working 70, 80 hours a week, crazy hours sometimes, and have a family, and they can still find a couple hours or 3 hours a week to go to the gym and get some work done, because they understand that health is the most important part of their life. Because if it all falls apart, their job's over, they're risking, you can even risk your own life by not staying on top of it, because the amount of stress some of these people have that come here, it's heart attack city, heart attack hotel potentially.
Not a good hotel to stay at.
So they're understanding that, if they come into the gym 2-3 hours a week and they're taking care of their nutrition, they're trying to walk a little bit more where they can in their already busy schedule. These are the small lifestyle changes that can, pay back in dividends, because it's really going to make them live longer. It's going to enable them to be more mobile. It's going to enable them to be a bit more switched on at work. Stop them getting them as sick as frequently. Like all these little...
Oh, that's a big one.
Oh, man. Yeah. It annoys me when I see people getting bugs and colds all the time. But it's just, that usually comes down to a lack of sleep, poor nutrition, etc., weak immune system. But it adds to your life. It doesn't take from it. And although it is a bit difficult, like all of a sudden the flight of stairs gets easier. You have a bit more energy when you wake up in the morning. You can just take on daily challenges with a lot more ease. And sure, you might be a bit achy some of the time, but the positives heavily outweigh the disadvantages of just, improving reducing the risk of all-cause mortality. But I think if you improve both your diet and improve training, so like improving your diet is a very generic term, but it reduces the risk of all-cause mortality by about 20%. And if you start doing resistance training twice a week alongside cardiovascular training as well, it reduces the risk of all-cause mortality by about 30%, which is crazy high.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And if you add those two together, I mean, that's 50%, but it's hard to add these together in statistics. Partner that also with improving your sleep as well and getting restful sleep each night, getting deep and REM sleep. Like, it's just inevitable that you're going to live a longer, happier, healthier life by doing more training and taking charge of your health. And if the fear of having to spend a couple hours on it a week or 2 or 3 hours on it a week and eating a little bit better is going to hold you back doing that, I think you just need to have a long, hard look at yourself. I mean, it's just, I just can't work it out myself, but you know, it's the power, your power of decisions define your life. And it's important to kind of really weigh up the pros and cons of, okay, if I don't do this, what will happen to me, not only in 3 months, but in 10 years' time? And will starting in 5 years' time, how will that impact my life? What do I want the quality of my next year to look like, the next 5 years, the next 10 years? You know, these later chapters in life where it becomes ever more important, the work you put in now really has a massive impact on what happens then.
Yeah, I think it's so spot on because we spoke about it with Rachel about mindfulness and meditation in the sense that doing a personal training session, doing a meditation session, or something where you're putting a little bit of an investment in, might be a little bit uncomfortable, but you're being intentional about it. You know, a couple of times a week. It's not just in isolation that you get better just in that session. Like, you don't do meditation so that you can get better at meditation while sitting down. Like, you do meditation so that it improve your quality of life and to be able to, you know, maybe just enjoy the present a little bit more, or to be a little bit less stressed at work, or to, you know, deal with uncertainties, delays, people cancelling, anything out of the blue, just to be able to have a little bit of a stronger like center line and to feel a little bit more secure in yourself when there's loads of uncertainties around us. And it's, you know, like you say, it's the same with the personal training and investing in yourself. And it is something which then shows up in parts of your life that you probably didn't even realize. I mean, it's going to be fascinating over the next weeks and months. We're going to get some of the members on and we're going to chat about, you know, about their journey. And because it's all well and good us kind of like talking about it, but to have it from the people that are sharing their own journey, certain things that they've overcome, especially mindset shifts, like how they viewed like personal training before to how, you know, they view it now. It kind of gives you a bit of a taster and you know, feel like you resonate with their situation starting out, and just seeing that a lot of the things, you know, there is agency within these, and the most important thing is that you can take action and take control of the direction on the, you know, great scale of the way that your, you know, life wants to go, and kind of happen to life rather than life like happening to you. So I'd like to also mention about, so when you talk about nutrition plans, I'd like to kind of wrap up this episode with exactly what, so got podcasts now, great, but we're also personal trainers. You are a business owner for Barn Gym down here in Etchingham. If you were to get, and we briefly mentioned like, you know, what you get from personal training sessions, what do you get with your money? You know, how much does it cost for a PT session? And what do you get with it, and what can you expect going forward if someone's interested in signing up to the gym?
So yeah, with personal training packages, we don't really like selling individual ones unless it's like a technique focused sort of session where someone has a real goal that they want to achieve from that session. I want to improve my deadlift. Okay, cool. We can do that. And we often do that with the members who do classes. They might have some specific thing that they want to work on. But with our kind of PT packages, like that kind of pricing stays the same, but it might be twice a week, once a week. Sometimes people do 3 times a week It depends on the motivation level, but incorporated in that costing of that £60 session, you're going to be getting the whole experience with the online training, your nutritional programming. We're going to be logging all your food. We're going to be adjusting it, making sure you're hitting the right macro and micronutrients, hitting the correct calorie level, trying to base it 80% around whole foods, 20%, what the foods that you love and enjoy. If you want to be really well behaved, kind of pushing up to that 90 to 10% rule. That's a little bit more hard, but some people can manage. Then, you're going to have bespoke home workout plans, or you could have access to the gym and come and do your own sessions down here. You're going to get those weekly check-ins. You're going to have the text messages from your coach, and it's kind of like up the whole package. It's a really, really good experience, and the people who get the best results are those that have the most communication with their coach. They're filling out the check-in forms, they're texting them any queries or questions. They're kind of asking them about the program in their PT sessions. Like, they are going to see far better results than those who just literally utilize the PT sessions. So we're really big on pushing people to kind of get the check-in forms done, to ask questions no matter how ridiculous they are, because the more touch points you have with your coach, the better experience it will be. So yeah, I mean, in summary, that's kind of like how our personal training works, but the online coaching is a very similar system. It's just, rather than having personal training sessions, you have calls every other week with your coach for about half an hour, where you're going over the training plan and what's gone well, what hasn't, what you need help on. So it's just added more accountability. So the online coaching is £200 per month. Comes down when you buy it in blocks of 6 months or 3 months. But again, it's that level of accountability. There's a little bit more on the online coaching because you're not definitely seeing your client once a week. It's a little bit more texting and a little bit more calling. But yeah, it's an all-round good experience, and it applies the structure, the accountability required for you to get that result, and also the knowledge from all the stuff we kind of put into the community, talking about rep ranges, talking about fiber, talking about seed oils, talking about saturated fats, talking about mindset, mobility, flexibility, perfect time to train. All these things we make videos on, taking people through slideshows, going into the kind of the deeper science behind it all, because, it interests some of you guys, but we like to keep it simple. Mm-hmm. So those are kind of like the plans we have available at the moment. So if you're interested, I guess reach out and get in touch with us.
I'll link the website, barn-gym.com will be linked below in the description, and then also to be able to join the community, which is starting to kick off now. We've just released the Barn Gym competition calendar for 2026. Across the year, few events, spring games, little tonnage, running and tonnage, distance and tonnage throwdown.
That'll be good fun.
And then the Spartan Games, which is about September. So get on the community and have a look at that. And once the weather is turning and everyone's going to be happy to come down and have barbecues and stuff, make it a proper social occasion, and kind of turn a lot of this digital stuff into the analog experience, and making an impact on kind of people as individuals and teams and groups.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thank you for listening in today, guys. Charlie, do you want to sign us off?
I think that's it. I think stay tuned for member episodes and do some member spotlights coming up soon. Drop us a message if there's anything you want us to touch upon, talk about in episodes, which ones you kind of enjoy. The more informational, educational ones, the story-based narrative ones, or kind of like general chit-chat bits. We're kind of just trying out a lot of them at the moment, just to see which fits and which people like to listen to.
Awesome. Thanks for listening, guys.
Nice one. Cheers.